New video just in. We're going to show you right here to CNN. President Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky in Kyiv this morning. And just moments after this meeting, the Ukrainian Air Force issued a warning of a missile threat across the entire country of Ukraine. All of this comes as we are standing by this morning for President Trump to meet with the NATO Secretary General at the White House in just hours, as he's teasing a major statement, his words, about Russia coming today. Details on that announcement so far not known. But when asked about the bipartisan Russia sanctions bill being pushed by Congress, but waiting for the president to give the green light, President Trump said, quote, we will see. Joining me right now is CNN's senior military analyst, retired Admiral Adm Stav. He's also the former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO and a partner at the Carlyle Group. Admiral, thank you for being here. You called on President Trump to stand firm with NATO, with the Secretary General in town. What would you like to hear that would give you confidence that he is doing that?
I am very happy at the moment of the U.S.-NATO role. We're on the back of the NATO summit, where almost every one of our European allies agreed to a 5% of GDP. That's more than we spend in terms of GDP. We spend about 3.5. So Europe is waking up to the need to meet the defense spending. So with that as backdrop, here comes the Secretary General, Mark Rutte. I know him well. He's a 14-year prime minister of the Netherlands. He has managed the Trump account quite well. And here's the point, Kate. What I'm watching for is Mark Rutte to say, in the presence of the president, yes, we are going to take the weapons systems that the United States is going to provide to Ukraine. We will purchase them and we will send them on to Ukraine. It's a very nice win-win. That's the key thing to watch as this visit unfolds.
What weapons would be most helpful right now? If the president announces it is only defensive weapons, is that enough? Do you think it would be necessary that the president make that shift to, announcing more offensive weapons going in?
I do believe it is important in that announcement. Again, that's what we'll be listening for, is to move beyond strictly defensive weapons, such as the Patriot missiles, which are the air defense systems that the Ukrainians desperately need. But what I would like to see is a provision for the United States to send more Harpoon missiles to go after the Black Sea Fleet, more HIMARS, surface-to-surface weapons that can reach deep behind Russian lines, more offensive cyber capability, and Kate, maybe some more F-16 aircraft, all of which are very capable offensively. I think that is what could move Putin to the negotiating table, which is what we want on our side.
And that kind of also begs the question I would love your perspective on. Ambassador Volker was on with me just last hour, and he noted the shift in President Trump's tone towards Putin, saying that he thinks that Trump is realizing that there is no other way than this kind of pressure on Putin, and how he's consistently said in the past week, at least, he is disappointed with him. What do you think's behind the shift? Do you think it'll actually stick?
I do think it's going to stick, and the reason is not because we're maneuvering brilliantly over here. As usual, democracies take a while to get organized and create a unified front. But I think the reason it'll stick is because Vladimir Putin appears to be not smart enough to back down, meaning Putin will continue to provoke the president. I see that happening. If he does that, watch for real NATO unity, additional offensive weapon systems, the spending of $300 billion in Russian money that's parked in Western banks, and certainly that sanctions bill that Lindsey Graham is pushing. That will have the effect of keeping Putin backing up. That's what we need to see.
I want to turn, speaking of keeping up pressure, I want to turn to Iran, because you wrote a really interesting piece laying out what you believe it would really take to truly end Iran's nuclear program, essentially saying that the Iraq invasion in 2003 all over again would be necessary. How you put it is, so what would it actually require? Certainly more than the American people, their elected officials, and the military would be eager to undertake anytime soon. Talk to me more about why you think it would take that level of U.S. commitment to eliminate the threat.
Sure. Let's put our minds back in a time machine and go to 2003 when we truly, deeply, madly believed that Saddam Hussein had nuclear weapons, weapons of mass destruction. So we invaded. Turns out that was wrong, but it's a blueprint for what it would take to really dismantle. And if you look at those statistics, and I was a one-star in the Pentagon reviewing those plans, 300,000 troops, hundreds of warships, 2,000 combat aircraft, take over the country, track down every scientist, go to every laboratory. It's a huge undertaking, didn't turn out especially well. Now, here's the point, Kate. Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq. It's a huge country, has twice the population, 80 million to 40 million. So it's a much bigger undertaking. Point being, bottom line, if we don't want to do that, and I would argue we certainly don't, we ought to use negotiations. And by the way, this morning, the Iranians have indicated a willingness to come to the table. That's because they got punched in the mouth, as a famous boxer once said, everyone has a plan until you're punched in the mouth. The Iranians have been punched in the mouth. We don't need to invade the whole country. We need to get to the table, keep the pressure on, but not revert to that 2003 blueprint. Let's hope we can avoid that.
It was a really interesting read and definitely a walk back into the time machine, a necessary one. It's really great to have you, Admiral, as always. Thank you so much.